Hey guys, welcome back to Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel today. We're going to have a conversation today, guys, and I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how to never question the fact if you're getting a strike or not ever get fooled again. Because I hear a ton of people talking about it's like, man, that felt like a strike. I'm not sure if that was a bite. It could have been a rock. It could have been a stick, or man, that felt like a bite. So I want to go over this broad range of things, how you'll be able to tell the difference between a rock, a piece of grass, a stick, a perch, a bass, anything like that. I'm going to give you guys some good insight to this, and definitely think it's going to add up to some more fish for you guys. Also, guys, before we get started, a couple quick housekeeping tips. Just want to remind you guys, thank you very much for everybody that has taken time to subscribe here to Advanced Bass Fishing. Really appreciate you guys, subscribing and hyping the videos and liking the videos. And also, guys, real quick, you've heard me talking about this a lot on my other channels, but I just want to let you guys know, if you're looking for the primo rod and reel setup, guys, try this new Cast King ALTI bait cast reel. It's got this halo magnetic braking system in the thing, almost impossible to backlash. You can cast it without even thumbing it. Full titanium spool, light as a feather, 11 ball bearings in the thing. I'll put my Cast King link in the description of the video. And if you use the promo code Randy10, you get an additional discount. But guys, for the money, this with my discounts right around $200. You'll not find a better reel. And also, guys, try to couple it up with this Megabass Destroyer. This Megabass Destroyer line of rods here, unbelievable light, unbelievably sensitive. I'll put the Destroyer link and my Tackle Warehouse link in this video description. So I really appreciate you guys putting up with the plugs there. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, this is common for even good anglers. In fact, I still get fooled sometimes, not near as much as what I used to, but this is one of the learning curves in fishing that takes some people longer than others, is how to know if you're getting a strike, or how to detect a strike, or how not to get fooled, that type of thing. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's like it doesn't cost anything to set the hook, if you're not sure, and there's some truth to that, but you don't really have to do that in terms of, if you know what you're looking to feel, you're not going to get fooled with it. So here's some things that you have to remember. First of all, one of the biggest premises is that a lot of people think that, like for example, they're working the bait like that, and they're not sure it's bait. It's like, man, I got one on there, and they say, oh man, and they set the hook, and it's like, oh, I had a bite, but he spit it out. I didn't set the hook too soon, or I didn't set the hook soon enough. That's a myth, guys. If you get bit by a bass that's like over a pound, something like that, 99% of the time, the fish will never spit it out. Sometimes they will occasionally, like 1% of the time. Most of the time, if you get a bite, the fish can swim 10 or 20 foot or more and before they spit it out, and most of the time they're gonna swallow it. They're not even gonna spit it out. So if you think that you get a bite, and if you're not even sure if you get a bite, you're not in a hurry to do anything. Okay, let's say, for example, there's a couple different lure categories we'll talk about. Let's talk about the reaction baits and the slow baits. Let's talk about the slow baits. How not to get fooled. Let's say you're working your plastic worm like this, or your jig, or your shaky head, or whatever, spinning rod, bait cast, or whatever on the bottom, and you feel something. It's like, man, that feels funny. It's like, man, is that a fish or is that a rock? And sometimes your bait will be sliding down a limb, and your line will even start moving out like that, and you're not sure. But if you feel something like that, don't freak out. It's like, it's not like, okay, I'm not sure. Oh, I think that's a fish. I better set the hook. Don't do that. Here's what you do. You're feeling like this. You think, that feels like a bite, but I'm not sure. The only thing that you have to do is, first of all, don't do anything. Just keep your rod still and watch your line. Watch your line if it's moving on its own, and then reel down to it, guys, to the bait. And then when you reel down to it and you have a tight line, just put a little bit of pressure on it like that. Now, if it's a fish, you're gonna feel some type of a movement, especially if you pull up a little bit more like that. You're gonna feel a surge, or the line's gonna move. But if you pull up like that and you don't feel anything, it's like you don't feel any movement whatsoever, it's just like stationary, 99% of the time you're on a limb or a stick or a piece of grass. If you put some pressure on it and pull up like that, most of the time that fish is going to react to it and move. They're not going to spit it out, but what you want to do is, if you pull up and then you feel the weight or the throb of a fish like that, then set the hook with it. You don't have to like, oh, I'm not sure, that could be a bite, I'm not sure, and then set the hook like that. You don't have to do that, because two different things happen. Number one, most of the time you're setting the hook too soon. The fish that hasn't had time to eat that bait and get it in their mouth enough. And the other time is you're going to wind up setting into a log or setting into a rock and lose your bait. So just take your time with that. Now, it's a little bit different on a moving bait. It's like if you're cranking a moving bait like that with treble hooks or single hooks, most of the time the fish are going to hook themselves. So you're not really going to get fooled with that. But here's one thing that I'll give you guys some tips and advice on as far as fishing a crankbait or any type of a moving bait. You have to be prepared for the strike, and you have to expect the strike, because here's how a lot of people miss fish on a crankbait or spinnerbait is they'll be reeling their bait long like that, and say they haven't had a bite for an hour or so, and they're reeling like that, and they get a bite or they feel like something's a bite, and they set the hook immediate like that. You don't want to do that. Here's how not to get fooled. When you're cranking that crankbait like that, or that spinnerbait, and you feel something, whether you think it's a bite or not, just keep reeling like that. Don't set the hook on it. Just keep reeling until you actually feel a fish pulling on it, and then start reeling even faster. You don't have to set the hook like that. Now, if you're fishing a big spinnerbait, like with a big trailer and a big honking hook like that, where you have a single hook, yeah, you might want to put a little bit of swing into it to penetrate it. But if you're fishing a treble hook lure, like a crankbait or a swim bait or a jerk bait, you don't ever have to set the hook. Just reel fast like that, and that's going to continue to bury those hooks in that fish, and you're not going to get fooled with it. That's the whole thing about it. It's like most of the time people get fooled because they react too quickly to a fast bite, to a reaction bait or a slow bait. Like I said, the best thing to do, guys, is just take your time and hesitate and make sure before you actually set the hook on it. Now, there are some oddball situations where I even get fooled. Say, for example, if I'm working that bait and I feel something, sometimes you can get a rock, maybe that's big, and the rock will catch on the barb of a treble hook or something that's a slow bait, and you're pulling that thing and you're dragging that rock along the bottom, and maybe it starts falling down a drop or something and it moves and it feels exactly like a fish. Or sometimes you'll pitch a jig into a laydown and you don't know the fact that there's maybe a laydown branch at an angle down there, and that jig is sliding down you're putting pressure on it like that, and you don't know that jig is sliding down a tree that is angled like that. So you're pulling it and you feel weight, but you feel the jig sliding like that, and you set the hook. I mean, there's not anybody that can detect that. That's just one of those things. But moreover, guys, it's like once you get a feel for that, you just take your time. You don't get in a rush. You're not going to get fooled like that. And the thing that you always want to go back to, and how you're going to land a lot more fish and not lose them, do not get in a hurry to set the hook. Take your time, reel into your reaction baits, take the time, let the fish swim out with your slow baits, and never set the hook on a slack line. Guys, I can promise you, if you have 100 bites and you set the hook 100 times on a slack line, and then you reel down and you set the hook on a tight line, you're going to land 25% more bass on a tight line hook set than you will a slack line hook set. Guaranteed with that. I learned the hard way. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you guys out. I'll have all those links in the description to the rod and reels there. Appreciate it. We'll talk later.